Oh God, that's so hard to follow. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Royal Aboriginal land and any Aboriginal people here today, land that was never ceded. I'd also like to acknowledge the New South Wales Teachers Federation, in particular Henry Agenda, our President, who is here today with his family, our General Secretary Maxine Sharkey, who is here with TAFE comrades. There's a whole lot of New South Wales Teachers Federation officers here and members in different groupings as well as part of the Federation family here today. I'm also going to acknowledge my dad. He's here as a life member of the Federation, and he used to bring me to these rallies as a child, so it's a real privilege to be here as a grown-up doing this. So the Teachers Federation covers members, teachers who work in preschools that are attached to primary schools, public primary schools. It covers primary school teachers in the public system, it covers secondary school teachers in the public system, and it covers TAFE teachers as well in New South Wales. The public education system in New South Wales is special. It has about 800,000 students in it. It's the largest single education system in the Southern Hemisphere and one of the largest in the OECD. There are 2,216 schools in our system. 1/3 of our students have English as an additional language. Just about every student who is a refugee is in the public education system. 80% of students with disability are in the public education system. Just about every child who comes from a family that is poor is in the public education system. And we also have students in the public education system who come from wealthy families as well. About 84% of young people outside of Sydney in regional, rural and remote New South Wales come into the public education system. We're very proud of our system. Everybody's included and it's a place for everybody to be nurtured. Educating for peace in 2025 means many things. What we've heard about this morning, or this afternoon, is about the end of violence, the end of war. And in the New South Wales Teachers Federation, we say all wars are fought against children. And devastatingly, we have to add to that today, all genocides are committed against children also. 122 million girls are out of education across the globe. Unusually, these days, 128 million boys, more boys than girls, are also outside of education across the globe these days. That is the impact of war and genocide, and it's also the impact of poverty, when young people cannot afford to go to school because their government may have privatised their education system and relinquished control of it and given it away to charter school movements and academies and other people who run car companies to run schools, which happens in developed countries across the globe. They can't keep track of children in education when they sell off their systems. I want to talk about something called positive peace. What positive peace is working to address underlying social issues. That's one of the things the Federation is very keen on at the moment, and certainly for the next 3 weeks. One unjust thing that's happening in our country that you may have heard about is schools funding. The New South Wales public education system has a needs-based funding model, and it attracts money so that we can support students with all their needs, and I have described that and the complexity of that already. We are under-resourced. We're not at 100% of the schooling resource standard yet, and we're in a campaign for our lives to get to 100% of the schooling resource standard. This is one way we articulate our activities around positive peace. Free TAFE. Our TAFE system, over the last decade of the coalition, federally and in the state, was decimated. They sold off TAFE. It used to be a free place to get education, heavily subsidised courses, and an entitlement to every single community. They screwed that up and they made TAFE compete. It lost teachers, it lost students, and it downgraded the qualifications of what people were doing in TAFE. Well, that's about to change because we've won lots in TAFE, and in this federal election we're fighting to bring it back. Some parties have promised free TAFE for our state. One way to build positive peace for young people in New South Wales is to have free TAFE courses for them to do so they can get qualified at things and go and make a contribution to our society. So fighting for TAFE is an important thing in this election. But I want to come back to schools funding for a moment. Before Tony Abbott was elected, he promised that he would fund public schools like the Gillard government had. He promised he would match dollar for dollar. But what he actually did when he got into government was cut $30 billion out of our public schooling systems across Australia. That was one of the first things he did. Come along Malcolm Turnbull. Malcolm Turnbull, he wanted to adjust the tax system, and what he wanted to do was withdraw federal funding out of public education across Australia. Withdraw all funding out of our systems across Australia. That's what the nice one, Malcolm Turnbull, wanted to do. He did not get away with that, and he changed that. Scott Morrison comes along. Scott Morrison cut $20 billion out of the public system when he was the Prime Minister of this country. That's $50 billion under the coalition over a decade. And you wonder why in public education we only have 1 in every 10 kids unfunded. It's because of those people that did that to our system. When we are fully funded, what we can afford to do is we can have English additional language teachers conducting small classes with students who need to learn English in order to access the curriculum. We can have special programs for students who have a disability to support them so that their learning outcomes are not substandard, but we can help kids with disabilities get equality and excellence in their learning outcome alongside other kids. We can help kids who are disadvantaged and have been struggling to eat, coming into school with very few experiences that help them educationally. We can put programs together for those kids like free public preschooling, co-located on every primary school site, for example. Wouldn't that be nice to have so that our kids have a chance to have equality and excellence in their education outcomes? So the public system at the moment is struggling because it's not fully funded, and we are fighting for that in this election so that we can do all the things around building positive peace around the community in New South Wales. The other thing I want to talk about is the cost of living. When we fund our public systems, we are taking the money that our tax contributions allow us to have programs that sorry, I've had a blank. But our tax contributions, what that allows us to have is the proper systems in place so that people do not have to pay for it. We should not have to be paying for what the public already pays for through its taxes. The other thing I do want to mention before I wrap up is the idea that teachers indoctrinate young people, and I want to dig into that for a moment. We're a bit upset by the idea that Peter Dutton and his cronies think that what teachers do is indoctrinate young people. Have you heard them say that in the media? I want to read you something from the syllabuses. What we teach our kids in Australia is second to none. We have very rigorous courses that are very intelligent. And what they do is they allow young people to think deeply. Peter Dutton thinks that what we do in public education is teach kids what to think. And he criticises us that what we should be doing is teaching kids how to think. What I think Peter Dutton wants is no thinking. Because what they want to do is to get away with whatever they like. And what they want to do is to have, by controlling curriculum, which he's suggesting he would do if he got in, he wants to say on curriculum, I don't think I'd be employing a police officer, ex-police officer, to be having a say in curriculum, would you? In our legal studies outcomes, one of the most beautiful things that kids learn about in New South Wales right here is this. Explain the role of law in encouraging cooperation and resolving conflict. There's peace in education for you, as well as initiating and responding to change. What a great thing for our young people to learn how to resolve conflict through the curriculum. The curriculum that was designed by teachers, academics, and a lot of different people consulted and agreed upon, so culturally agreed upon. That is what we should be doing with our curriculum. He criticises preschool teachers for indoctrinating kids before they get to kindergarten. I'll read you something from the early years framework. The learning outcomes in our country for kids before they get to 5 years old are that children have a strong sense of identity. Tick, that is a good thing. Sorry for the ticks, the teacher thing. Second one, children are connected with and contribute to their world. Also a very good thing. Children have a strong sense of well-being. What an excellent thing to have. Children are confident and involved learners. Also brilliant. Children are effective communicators. We want this for our kids, and in learning in relation to the learning outcomes for little people should be based on what they bring into our preschool. So I am taking Peter Dutton's cronies' criticisms of preschooling as his desire to indoctrinate our youngest, because it says this, it says learning in relation to the learning outcomes is influenced by each child's context, including previous experiences, culture, languages spoken, capabilities, emotional well-being, dispositions and learning preferences. That is peace building. He does not want a peaceful community here in Australia. So we don't like Peter Dutton in the New South Wales Teachers Federation, and we ask you to consider for Vote for Public Education in the coming election.